What is up, you guys? Welcome back to The Mill Online. I hope that wherever you are, wherever you're watching this, I hope that you are well. I hope that this quarantine thing isn't driving you crazy. We miss you guys. I know Aaron misses you guys. He's been doing his chat and chills, or chills and chats, whatever those things are called. So be sure to keep up on his Instagram and when he's doing that on the Midtowne SM Instagram. Follow that, join in, chat with him. Sometimes he brings people into the live. He brought me into the live, and I was not expecting that. I was somewhere that I didn't have great cell service, but, you know, these things happen. Anyways, we love you guys. We miss you guys. We're praying for you guys. Right now, I pray that wherever you are, that the Spirit would move, that he would move in you and through you and around you. And let's worship God right now together. faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Thank you, God, for who you are and all that you do. God, thank you that you walk with us, that you never leave us alone. Father, thank you that as we stumble through this life, Lord, trying to grow, trying to learn, trying to develop a stronger faith, God, thank you that you are there. God, thank you that our salvation is not based on anything that we have done, but God, it is all about what you did for us on the cross. Lord, that you sent your Son to die for us, that it's not based on the works, the things that we do, but it's our faith in Jesus. God, thank you that you didn't leave our salvation up to us, that you provided it for us. God, thank you that we can love you because you first loved us. Father, wherever people are listening to this right now, God, I pray that they would feel your love surrounding them, no matter their situation. God, let your Spirit just engulf them, flooding them to the innermost parts of their being, and the depths of their minds with your love. God, because we are not worthless, we are not hopeless. You paid the ultimate price for us, and you give us our hope, God. Thank you, Lord. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I'm unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are now, that your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. examples of faith that you have set before us. Father, I pray that you would open our hearts and open our minds, that we would absorb your word like a sponge. God, reveal yourself to us. Show us your glory. Show us something new. Revive us, invigorate us. And we pray all this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the stream. Like Chad said, we just can't even put into words how much we miss you guys. We really do. Just being here on Wednesdays, gathering together, just for me, just getting to see you guys and ask you how your day was and all of that, man, I really miss that. And I can't wait until we can do it again. But as always, I just really appreciate you being here and tuning in, because you could be doing anything with all this quarantine time you have on your hands, and you choose to come and hang out with us, and just know that I really appreciate that. But we've been talking about faith, and that faith is trusting that what you believe actually works. And we've talked about how trusting that prayer actually works, trusting that reading our Bible actually works, trusting that sharing our faith actually works, and that when we do all of these things, God will move through them. And I kind of want to bring all of it together tonight to talk about how we live faith fully. Now, not living faithfully, not just being obedient to God's commands, but living in a constant state of trusting that what we believe actually works. Living out our faith fully, or being faith-filled. Now, usually what helps us to do that is knowing that it actually does work, though, right? Like, it helps us to trust that it works when we see someone else prove it for us. That's why most commercials for TV products and things like that usually have some type of demonstration. Like if you've seen the Flex Seal commercial, I know that's a huge meme out there. It's just this giant tank of water. It's got a hole in it, and water is gushing out, and that guy takes a piece of Flex Seal and just slaps it over it, and it stops it from leaking. Or you have all these workout and fitness commercials that show before and after photos to try and prove that their system actually works. And the ones that I get sucked into the most are usually the cooking ones. Okay, I'm not a great cook at all. I don't even cook often, but I always get sucked into wanting to try these cooking products. Like, if I see somebody make an omelet in a pan and then just tilt the pan over and the omelet just slides right off, like it doesn't stick, like I want to try that. Like I want to get that pan and be like, I want to make an omelet that doesn't stick to the pan. Or if I see somebody like with a super sharp knife cut a can in half, I'm like, I want to cut a can in half, right? So I get sucked in to these demonstrations. I get sucked into seeing other people do it, and it inspires me to want to do it too. Okay, that's what makes all of us want to buy and try stuff. Like when our friends get something new and they let us use it, like we immediately want to get it as well. When we see a TikTok dance, we immediately want to go learn it so that we can do it too. Or when we see a challenge on Instagram, we immediately try and go do it ourselves, because seeing people do stuff that actually works inspires us to try it as well. It moves us to be a part of it and to do it ourselves. And I think seeing people live faith fully will inspire us to do the same things. It will inspire us to live with a constant trust that what we believe actually works. But where do we look to find that? Where do we look to see people who have lived faithfully, who can prove to us that it actually works? And of course, the answer is in the Bible, right? So that's where we're going. So I'm glad you asked, because we're going to go to Hebrews chapter 12, and we're going to look at verse 1. Now, the great thing about these videos is you can stop the video right here and find where Hebrews is. You can use your table of contents to get there, or you can start in Revelation and work backwards. So it's like Revelation and then 3 John, 2 John, 1 John, and then I think Philemon or Jude, about right there. I think I've got all those books sort of kind of in order: Revelation, Jude, first, 3rd John, 2nd John, 1st John, and then you'll run into Hebrews right around there. So you can stop the video, find it if you want to, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and grab your notebook or your notes or whatever it is that you're going to be following along with us with tonight, and get that ready, and get ready to take notes. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. This is what it says. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. Okay, now, I'm going to break all this down in a second, but I want you to notice how this verse starts out. It starts out with, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith. And this isn't a crowd witnessing us living a life of faith, okay? This is a crowd that can witness to us about living a faith-filled life. These are people who have lived a full life of faith and have proved that it actually works. So it's not like witnesses watching, it's witnesses like you'd see on a stand in a courtroom. What it's saying to us is that if we're skeptical about living faith fully, then all we need to do is look around at all the examples of faith that we have around us. That's what it's saying. Since we are surrounded by so many people that prove living faith fully actually works, we need to look at them. We need to look at our examples, and that's your first blank. If we're going to live faith fully, we need to look at our examples. And these examples that we have are spectacular. If you go backwards a chapter to Hebrews chapter 11, it is full of great examples of faith. That's actually the little subtitle of that whole chapter, is Great Examples of Faith. And it lists all of these amazing, incredible examples of faith. Like it starts with Enoch, okay? Enoch lived so faithfully that God didn't allow him to die. God was like, you have done so well, I'm just going to pick you up and take you to heaven. Noah builds the ark in faith. Sarah is told by God that she's going to have a son at 100 years old and believes in faith that she will. Abraham believes that even if he sacrifices that son, that God will bring him back to life to fulfill the promise God made to him. Joseph prophesies in faith that God would rescue the Israelites from Egypt, and then Moses goes in faith to rescue the Israelites from Egypt. And then it mentions David and Gideon and Samson and all these prophets, and all of these people trusted God. They trusted what God told them, and they believed that if they did what he said, it would actually work. And all of them are meant to inspire us. They are meant to be our examples, to prove to us that living faith fully actually works. And I know that you're thinking, well, of course they're great examples. Of course they prove to us that it works. That's why they're in the Bible. Like, you don't make the Bible if you don't live by faith that works, right? But that's not all the examples that we have. We have examples outside of the Bible that prove it as well. Some of my favorites are like George Mueller. George Mueller asked God for everything. He prayed constantly and literally watched God hand him stuff. Things that he prayed for would just show up. Things that he prayed for would just happen. His life of prayer, his life of faith was so incredible that God just did what George Mueller asked of him. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German preacher who stood against Hitler and the Nazis. Dwight L. Moody started one of the greatest revivals ever. And of course, most of us have heard of Billy Graham and the great revivals that he started. And even besides those people, we all have people in our own lives that are great examples of faith to us. They are great examples of proving that living faith fully actually works. And all of them are meant to inspire us to live the same way. They're meant to be witnesses that prove living faith fully actually works. And that's how Hebrews 12 starts. It goes, look, if you're skeptical about doing this, if you're skeptical about doing all the things that we've talked about, like praying and reading your Bible and sharing your faith, then look at all of the people who have done that and done that in faith, and it has actually worked for them. Look at your examples and then do what they did. And then it tells us exactly how to do that. Hebrews 12:1, we're going to go back through it again. Look at what it says. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, since we're surrounded by so many people that prove that living faithfully actually works, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. Okay, this is where we start to break it down. The writer uses this illustration of a runner who's about to run a race. That's his metaphor in this thing. He says, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, okay? The first thing he tells us to do is exactly what a runner would do before they run a long race, okay? I don't know if you've ever watched a cross-country meet or if you've ever seen like track and field on TV or like an Olympic marathon or something like that, but people who run those things usually don't wear very much at all. And what they do wear is very, very like skin tight and minimal, okay? And it's because they want as little as possible to slow them down. A lot of them are like swimmers, and they will even shave hair off of their body to reduce drag, okay? Because if they wear too many clothes, and then they're heavy and it slows them down. If they wear baggy clothes or clothes that's really flowy, it kind of acts as a parachute and it slows them down. They want to be as light and as fast as possible. And so before they run a race, they strip off everything that may slow them down. They leave behind what will slow them down. And if we're going to live faith fully, we have to do the same thing. We have to leave behind what slows us down. That's your next blank. Go ahead and write that down. If we're going to live faith fully, we have to leave behind what slows us down. And it tells us what does, okay? Hebrews 12:1 says that we need to strip off the sin that so easily trips us up. Like we know that sin trips us up. We know that sin isn't living for God. Sin actually does the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing, and instead of it propelling us towards the finish line, it causes us to run away from it. It causes us to not even be in the race at all. So of course, in order for us to live faith fully, then we have to strip off sin. But we also have to strip off the weight that slows us down. And the weight that usually slows us down is the weight of fear and doubt. It's the weight of fear and doubt. Go back to Hebrews 11. Where it talks about these great examples of faith. We're going to start in Hebrews 11:32, so you're just a couple paragraphs up from where we are in Hebrews chapter 1. And look at what it says. How much more do I need to say? It would take too long to recount the stories of faith of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and all the prophets. By faith, these people overthrew kingdoms, ruled with justice, and received what God had promised them. They shut the mouths of lions, quenched the flames of fire, and escaped death by the edge of the sword. Their weakness was turned to strength. They became strong in battle and put whole armies to flight. Women received their loved ones back again from death. That's what we love to see, right? That's what inspires us. It's like an athlete who watches their favorite professional player or favorite professional swimmer or whatever. They're inspired by them. They're inspired by how good they are and all the victories they win. And it makes us want to be like them. It makes us want to be as good as them and be as big of a legend as they are. It makes us want to win as much as they win. It's what inspires us, their victories. But look at what 35 through 38 says. But others were tortured, refusing to turn from God in order to be set free. They placed their hope in a better life after the resurrection. Some were jeered at, and their backs were cut open with whips. Others were chained in prisons. Some died by stoning. Some were sawed in half, and others were killed with the sword. Some went about wearing skins of sheep and goats, destitute and oppressed and mistreated. They were too good for this world, wandering over deserts and mountains, hiding in caves and in holes in the ground. Now that doesn't sound very inspiring to us, does it? That doesn't really motivate us to want to live faith fully. But when it comes to living a faith-filled life, those are real possibilities. Just like for a professional athlete, career-ending injuries are a possibility. But the difference between a great faith-filled life and a great athlete is that the athlete only focuses on the victories, while we usually focus on the defeats. We usually focus on the second half of what we just read and not the first half. We're afraid that if we step out in faith, that if we trust what we believe actually works, we're going to go through all of that bad stuff. We're afraid we're going to be tortured, we're going to have our backs whipped, we're going to be jeered at or made fun of, we're going to end up in chains or be stoned to death. We're afraid of being destitute and homeless and having nothing. But a great athlete, while they know that pushing their body to the limit might end in disaster, like they could tear something or break something that costs them their careers, they don't think about that. They're not focused on the defeat. They're only focused on the victory. They mentally take off the weight that weighs them down. They mentally take off the weight of failure and defeat that slows them down, and they leave that behind and run towards victory. And if we're going to live faith fully, we have to do the same thing. We have to leave behind the mental weight of failure and defeat. We have to leave behind what living for Jesus might cost us, because the victory is all that matters. The victory is all that matters. So we have to leave behind what slows us down. But let me be clear. The victory that we're running towards isn't watching what God will do with our faith. Our victory is simply living in faith. It's simply living faith fully. Hebrews 11 ends by telling us that. The goal for these great examples, I love that it says that they lived for a better life beyond the resurrection. It says that they were too good for this world. And their victory wasn't what they would do through their faith in this world. It was just living faithfully while they were here. Look back at Hebrews 12:1. This is what it says. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. So it ends by telling us to run the race set before us with endurance. Now, the word endurance here in Greek means agony. And I don't know if you've ever run a long-distance race, but those of you who have know exactly what it's talking about, okay? There's agony in running a long distance. For me, there's agony in running a short distance, but that's because I'm out of shape. But there's agony in running a long distance because you reach a point where your body does not want to keep going. Like it's hard to breathe, your legs are burning and on fire, your whole body wants to quit. But you run with endurance. You run with endurance. You never stop, no matter what. You ignore not being able to breathe. You ignore the pain in your legs. You ignore the thought in your head of wanting to give up, and you stop no matter what. You don't stop no matter what. And if we're going to live faithfully, we can't either. We can't stop no matter what. Because here's what keeps a runner going in a long race like that. It's the thought of finishing. The thought of being done with the race. They push through the pain to receive the prize. They lean into the thought of just being finished because when they're done, the pain stops. The same goes for us as well. Now look at Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. This is what it says. We do this. We live faith fully. We strip off the pain that weighs us down, or we strip off the weight that weighs us down, and we run with endurance the race set before us by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. So the thought of finishing, the thought of receiving the prize for living faith fully is what keeps us going. Just like the runner who has his mind set on the finish line, we have our eyes set on Jesus, who this says is the champion. Jesus is the one who has already run the race. And he's the one who's already won the race. He is our perfect example of what it means to live faith fully. He endured the cross. He endured torture and shame. He resisted sin and temptation, and he died so that he could save all of us. And his mind the whole time was set on the prize of finishing. Because when he finished, the pain would be over. But listen carefully. It wasn't the pain of death on a cross that would be over. It was the pain of struggling with sin. The pain of having to face death. All of that would be over. And again, not for him, but for us. Jesus' mind was set on ending pain for us. Nothing else mattered to him. He was able to go through what he went through because the prize of ending pain for all of us is what was most important to him. It was more valuable to him than what he was having to go through. The finish line was his focus, and it was more important to him than what he had to go through to get there. And if we're going to live faith fully, the prize has to mean more to us than the pain, which means we have to look to the finish line. That's your next blank. If we're going to live faith fully, we have to look to the finish line. And our prize has to mean more to us than our pain. But here's what you need to understand. The finish line for us isn't heaven. It's not the good things or the blessings that we get from Jesus while we're here. It's not even the great things God is going to do through us if we live faithfully. The finish line for us is Jesus. The finish line for us is just getting to be with Jesus. I love the song that we sang today with Chad. The song How He Loves is one of my favorite worship songs ever. And my favorite line in that whole song is, He is our portion and He is our prize. He is what we get for living faith fully. Because when we reach the end of our life, the end of our race, He's going to be the one standing there waiting on us. And so our only goal should be to hear from Him, well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter in and find rest. Come and be with me forever. He is the prize that helps us push through the pain. He's the one that we endure everything for, and He is worth it. He is worth it. More than anything, that's what these people who lived great lives of faith prove to us. They prove that He is worth it. Their faith was great because their prize for living faithfully was greater. And that's what all of this means for you. If you're going to live a faith-filled life, Jesus has to be your prize. That's your last blank. To live a faith-filled life, Jesus has to be my prize. He has to be the only thing you care about, the only one you care about pleasing, the only one whose opinion matters to you. Because unless He is, you won't make it. Unless Jesus is your prize, you won't make it to the finish line. You'll get all the way there, you'll get to the end of your race, but instead of being invited across in victory, you'll be disqualified right at the very end. And so maybe tonight your prayer is not, God, show me great examples of faith. Maybe it's not, God, let me leave behind what slows me down. Maybe all that you need to do that is just pray, Jesus, be my prize. Jesus, be more important to me than anything else. Be more important to me than anything else this world has to offer. Be more important to me than anything I'm striving for right now, because you may be striving for things that you think are great. You may be striving for other prizes. You may be striving to have a great relationship, or to be successful in sports, or be successful in school, or to find purpose or value in anything else. But let me tell you, living for those things, living for those prizes is what's going to disqualify you at the end from receiving the ultimate prize. And that's Jesus. You can be a believer in Jesus and still be trying to win the wrong prize. And so maybe your prayer tonight needs to be, Jesus, be my prize. Because unless he is, you'll never notice great examples of faith around you. You'll never care. Unless Jesus is your prize, you'll never get rid of all the weight that slows you down. You'll never be able to get rid of all the sin that trips you up. Unless Jesus is your prize, you're never going to make it to the finish line. So maybe that's what your prayer needs to be. Maybe you're watching and you're not a believer. Your prayer needs to be the same thing. Because the truth is just as true for you as it is for us who believe. Whatever prize you're living for is not as great as the prize you will receive by giving your life to Jesus. Whatever prize you're living for now, if it's not Jesus, is going to disqualify you from receiving the ultimate prize when your race is over. And so your prayer tonight also needs to be, Jesus, be my prize. Because if you're going to reach the finish line, he has to be. To live a faithful life, Jesus has to be your prize. And I pray that he will be for all of us. I think that's one thing that this quarantine has shown all of us is what our prize has been. Where we've been finding our value, where we've been finding our purpose, where we've been finding what makes us feel important. And we need to just pray, Jesus, be my prize. So let's do that together right now. Jesus, I love you. And I thank you. And I'm so thankful that you have made a way for us to cross that finish line, God. But we know that we'll never be able to do it unless you are our ultimate goal, unless you are our prize. And I pray that you will be for everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening to this, God. Be our prize. For those of us who are believers, God, let us strip off all the weight that slows us down. Let us get rid of all the sin that easily trips us up. Let us run this race with endurance and be our prize. Father, for those who are watching that aren't believers, my deepest prayer is that they would see how valuable you are, that they wouldn't be disqualified at the end by all these other things that they're living for, but they would make you their ultimate goal, they would make you their ultimate trophy, they would make you their finish line, and they would begin living faithfully. I love you, Jesus. I ask all of this in your name. Amen. Couple things. Hey, if you are watching and you prayed that prayer, if you've never prayed it before and you just asked Jesus to be your prize for the first time tonight, let us know. Let us know in the comments or let us know in our messages, or if you have my number, go ahead and shoot me a text or something like that. Let me know, because I would love to talk with you about how to start walking, how to start running the race with endurance towards that finish line in Jesus. And like Chad said at the beginning, if you haven't yet joined us for our Instagram chill and chats, make sure that you keep an eye out for those in our Instagram stories and that you come hang out with us, because like he says, I'll bring people in and ask them silly questions, and we just have a great time together. You guys, I love you. I miss you so much. Stay safe and stay well.